Well, Nick Sirianni did just about everything he could to lose this Philadelphia Eagles football game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jalen Hurts, DeVonta Smith, Saquon Barkley, Nakobe Dean, they said no. 28-23 the final score. The Locked On Eagles postgame show coming your way.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Louis DiBiase joined as always by Gino Camilleri. It's the post-game show. The Eagles hold on for dear life and win it 28-23 over Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars. This podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Gino, I know the Eagles won this football game, and we're going to get into the positives, but I'm sorry, man. I want a new head coach.
We were so right about this. We were so right about this whole thing.
The only reason the Eagles almost blew this game was because of one man.
Mm-hmm.
It was because of Nick Sirianni. I'm sorry, he is the worst in-game decision maker of all time when it comes to making decisions on fourth down, when it comes to field goals, taking points, when to be aggressive in enemy territory. That was the single reason the Jaguars had the ball in Eagles territory, only down 5 with a chance to win it. Saquon Barkley, DeVonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, and the entire defense would not let their head coach lose them this game. Hats off to the personnel. But I'm sorry, I'm over the Nick Sirianni experiment. He is holding back a great team from being great, and they're only very good as a result.
I first want to say thank goodness for the 53 guys that are in the locker room that played their absolute heart out today, man. The guys on the football field won you this game. Once again, I think they're the main reason that this team is at 6-2 is the performance that these guys have put out each and every week. Because it is clear, Lou, now 8 games into the season, that your quarterback steps up when it matters. Today was exactly that. That throw to DeVonta Smith.
Amazing.
Out of this freaking world, man. DeVonta Smith, when A.J. Brown is out of the game, steps up and makes one of the greatest plays
greatest catches I've ever seen.
You'll ever see. I can't wait to go look at the next-gen stats, what the completion percentage was on that one. Saquon Barkley hits for the hurdle cycle, has a forward hurdle at the end of the game, but also has the best athletic feet I've
never
seen
seen
in my
a backwards
entire
hurdle
life.
in my entire life. Gino,
After he
up.
cuts to the left, Lou, hits a nasty spin move where he's able to keep his balance, has the wherewithal to have a backwards hurdle in his pitch play count or his pitch book, and he opened it up and said, we're going to go and throw this one out there. That was phenomenal on an individual performance basis by everybody on the offense, in my opinion. The defense, though, Nakobe Dean, Zack Baun, that duo.
The linebackers were the heroes, man. Zack Baun and Nakobe Dean saved
Keep them in Philly.
Game.
Keep them in Philly. Like, you have to
Howie,
these two
please
guys.
pay your linebackers. I'm looking right at the screen. I'm looking at you, Howie. For once in your life, pay a linebacker, please.
Dude, Zack Baun came out of the gate like he hadn't played a football game in 10 years, and he was licking his chops to go and get some action. Had that early interception. He was all over the football. Had 3 tackles on the first 5 plays of the game. Nakobe Dean maybe played his best game
that extension
as a
on
Philadelphia Eagle.
Gino, I thought it was Quinyon Mitchell with the way he caught that ball, and that was just unbelievable considering your backs were against the wall in the same situation against Atlanta earlier this year. And for them to close this time, the growth, it is such a young, exciting unit that, again, man, they saved the head coach.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Sirianni.
Nakobe Dean saved his job. 17 saved Nick Sirianni.
Nick Sirianni should be thanking Nakobe Dean in that locker room. He was coaching like he thought the game was over in the second quarter, man. Even if there were times you thought he made the right decision going for the 2-point conversion or going for it on fourth down. The cutesy calls where it's a reverse off the push, the deep ball on fourth down.
Was insane. Was so insane to call that there, Lou. It was the moments we are seeing are not just a toss-up, like 50-50, maybe this is going to work, maybe it's not. It either works or the call we make is so big-brained, smartest guy in the room that we overthink things.
Yep.
The fourth down play call, yes, the tush push, did it work perfectly throughout the game? Absolutely not. But you needed a quarter of an inch, and your best decision, which I know Nick Sirianni, he was in Kellen Moore's ear on that play call for sure. We're going to roll Jalen Hurts out and try and pass this thing multiple yards downfield. Like, not even just like a short little dump off to Saquon like that Atlanta game. Like, we're going to try and push the ball downfield on fourth down.
Gino,
Saquon was running out of his mind tonight.
Even let's remove the fourth down decisions and, not even going for a field goal to put you up by 2 scores with just a quarter left in the game. Every decision he made, the analytics, it felt like they were saying the opposite. And if the analytics did agree with him, like you said, he would big brain it. And I know as well that he was in Kellen Moore's ear. But even another play call where he just assumed the game was over. Kellen Moore, too, I guess, gets blamed for this. 2nd and 22. And you're throwing a screen pass to Anais Smith, who I forgot was on the team. I saw number 82. I'm like, is that Torrey Smith out there? I mean, I'm sorry. I know they won this game, and there's so much to feel good about from a personnel perspective, but I'm so unbelievably angry at the head coach. I'm so angry.
I'm also angry, and I am not this guy, but the officiating was horrendous.
The Saquon fumble was unbelievable.
The Saquon fumble, the guy's down by, that's the definition of down by contact from the second I ever started watching this sport. That was unbelievable to miss that call. There were multiple catches that they called, catches that it clearly hit the ground. The NFL standard right now of officiating is bad. Okay, that was my 10-second rant on officiating. But to get back to the point, Nick Sirianni, what is he doing to make this team better, Lou?
He's not. He's not making this team better. He's making them worse. They are winning in spite of their head coach.
Bingo. Bingo was his name-o. I think you can see moments where Kellen Moore is putting them in a really good position to
masterclass play calling in the first half.
I mean, you were doing everything right in the first half, and what was maybe the one thing that you did wrong, I think it was big braining yourself into taking a point off the board when you already got the 1 point, and you say, oh no, they jumped off sides, we're going to go for 2. Nick, like, let's just play the sport, keep the points on the board, and go to see another day. I'm 100% on board with being aggressive. If you want to be all in aggressive, that he at least had an identity. He wasn't wishy-washy, but the way he was doing it, it's clear that this is the episode of South Park when Cartman gets enough money to go buy himself a theme park. And then he's like, oh, I can't do this by myself. Like, I have to hire somebody to do the roller coaster. I have to hire somebody to do the water rides. It's like, that's what Nick is doing. He is George Costanza at this current point. He is doing nothing to keep his job, and he almost lost it tonight. We were hyping up all week, Lou. Is this Doug Peterson's
That's what's
Alamo?
so disappointing, man, is I was ready to claim that in the first half, this Eagles team, this version that we're getting the last 2 weeks, is the best team in the NFC. And Nick Sirianni does look all the way back. And I was about to give him some real credit on this show. And then again, he got comfortable. I think he got cocky. And I agree, Gino, with being aggressive. I mean, both head coaches today, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, the reason the Eagles have had so much success over the last decade is because of their aggressive mentality. But when you have to add context to the aggression, like, it has to make sense, right? And I don't think at times today it made sense to be aggressive. And again, like you said, when it did make sense, the play calls were arrogant. And that's what angered me the most.
That's a really good word to describe it, Lou. The arrogance behind thinking that Doug Peterson, whose job was quite literally on the line, was going to let his team lay down and die. And shout out to Tony Wiggins over at Locked On Jags. He said in the crossover that there's going to be multiple points in this game where you're saying, oh, this is a pretty decent football team. Like, I thought the Jags, without the personnel that they had, put together a pretty good performance all in all, but it should have never even been that close to where you're even giving them any sort of flowers. Because
like
the first half you crushed. The first half you dominated them on every single phase of the game.
It should have been a 30-point lead.
Without a doubt. The second half, that's what Doug does best, and he got that team back in the game. And when push comes to shove, Doug has won games in the fourth quarter that it came down to games like tonight Lou, where your head coach has to be the guy to make the right decision, does Nick Sirianni have the bone in his body to make a call like the Philly special if the game was on the line? Because he can't even do it against the lowly freaking Jacksonville Jaguars. That's the hardest part, man. That's the hardest part about it is context is huge. Like doing what you did against Cincinnati, yeah, that was one step in the right direction, but to do what you did against Cleveland, to do what you did against Atlanta, to do what you did tonight, I am seeing more and more examples that the guys in the locker room, the general manager, the owner, the coordinators, and multiple position coaches are right for the job, but the guy controlling where everybody else is not the right guy for the job. And I don't think that's an overreaction.
No, I don't think so either. I think everyone's right for the job except for the guy that's running the football team. Mm-hmm. And that's just, I think most of our viewers and listeners would agree with that. But as you mentioned, Gino, the players are right for the job. This is an exciting, young, clutch roster. And that was the reason they won this football game. So we'll get into that coming up next. The Locked On Eagles postgame show, 28-23, the final score. The Birds are now 6-2, a 4-game win streak after a win over the Jaguars. This episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we are brought to you today by Robinhood. Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individuals with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and can be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC.
We're also brought to you by Prize Picks, which is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. So if you are continuing to roll the dice with DeVonta Smith, with Saquon Barkley, with Jalen Hurts, make sure you continue to throw them in your Prize Picks lineup. And Prize Picks even has the flex play, which means that you could still cash your lineup if it isn't perfect. That means if A.J. Brown goes out of the game, which he has done a couple times now, you still have a chance to win even if one of your picks does not hit. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where up to 25% of the player projections are at a discount. And you are only going to get that over at Prize Picks. And you could start by getting in on the action today using code LOCKEDONNFL and getting $50 off instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's your first $5 lineup. You'll get $50 instantly when you use the code LOCKEDONNFL. Prize Picks, run your game.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. It's the post-game show. The Eagles hold on and barely eke out a win, I should say. I wasn't geeking out about that victory.
No, not about Nick Sirianni, that's for sure, man.
No, over the Jaguars. And, again, the head coach did everything that he could to lose that game. But I want to shout out, of course, the defense, and we already mentioned Nakobe Dean, Zack Baun, Josh Sweat with 2 sacks today, a clutch one as well late in the game on 3rd down. I thought Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell had another hell of a performance. The defense is young, and they're just getting started. And the fact that they are growing as fast as they are is almost a little surprising to me. I didn't think they'd be this far along, and the fact that they're winning this team football game is amazing. But the offense, considering Nick Sirianni putting handcuffs on this unit, you had Fred Johnson go down at one point today. You had a lot of penalties. A.J. Brown gets injured. Jalen Hurts, though, DeVonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley, that big 3 would not let them lose this game. And Howie Roseman, hats off, man. The Saquon Barkley free agent signing, it's in the Nick Foles tier, Malcolm Jenkins, Brandon Brooks. 159 yards today on the ground in a rushing touchdown, 3 catches for 40 yards through the air in a touchdown. And this was the game that they finally unleashed the full potential. It's crazy considering Saquon came into this game already with almost 1,000 yards from scrimmage, that they hadn't even reached his ceiling with this offense. Friday, me and you were saying, we need the wheel routes. Let's see him in pre-snap motion. Let's see him in the slot. Well, he catches a touchdown today on a wheel route. We saw him in the slot, called the motion on a reverse. We saw him in the screen game. Kellen Moore utilized Saquon to his fullest potential today. And like you said, that back hurdle in the first quarter might be one of the coolest runs I've ever seen or plays in my entire life watching football.
I said it to my wife, and then I said it to you right before we hopped on the show. I've seen Travis Hunter play multiple times live now, and I think he's the most impressive athlete I have ever seen. Saquon Barkley did something tonight on a football field that you will probably never see again, done on purpose. Like that, you're going to see kids trying to replicate that, but that was the first
He knew
time.
what he was doing. He set, I don't know who it was. It might have been Tyson Campbell. He's 5 yards away lunging, and Saquon knows it's coming and turns his body to jump over him. And it's coming off a spin move. And to do that on Shady McCoy's day where he gets inducted in the Hall of Fame, I mean, is that just not perfect?
Were we not bang on as well that this Kelly Green game was going to have a lot of vibes, as much as there was like, sit on the edge of your seat towards the end of the game?
It
That's
had
a perfect Philadelphia
plays.
Eagles game.
Dude, it had 3 of the, between that Saquon run, between the
Jahan Dotson. Dude, Jahan Dotson, welcome to the show, man.
Oh my
that was unbelievable.
The over-the-head
catch.
One-handed catch where he just rips it over the corner and pulls it in. The DeVonta Smith one-handed touchdown. I've never seen that many cool plays, Gino, in one game, I don't think. And to have that in Kelly
Not by
Green,
the Eagles, no.
Right?
No, not this many individual performances where you can look at that moment and say, like, oh, that's elite representation
it's
of
a
what
highlight
they're
we'll
doing.
be watching for years.
Yeah, DeVonta Smith's elite ability to just drop his
talk about
legs
Smitty, man?
dead, dude. Like he is so when there is a white line, his feet do not. It's like when you take some salt and put it in front of an ant and they like won't go in front of it. That's Smitty with anywhere there's an end line. He will not put his feet past it.
That's such a good analogy. He has some of the best body control. Like again, AJ Brown goes down and in a drive where it's in the fourth quarter, it's a 1-score game. He converts a 3rd and 6, then has another deep crossing route where he completes that for a first down.
Mm-hmm.
And then to score that touchdown, DeVonta might be one of the most underrated players in the league, and there's not many wide receivers that are as clutch as him in the fourth quarter. Like, he is the go-to guy for Jalen Hurts in those spots. He's been doing this all year in the fourth quarter.
Especially late in today's game when a couple weeks ago, too, we were waiting to see, like, what's this offense going to be when A.J. Brown is out? And fingers crossed he is back healthy.
It was a knee injury, so we'll see.
It did look like he was walking okay, though. Like, I don't think
They showed him in the back of the locker room.
Or anything.
Like, they showed him walking to the locker room. He wasn't walking super gingerly. I hope maybe it's more of like a ankle thing when they figure it out. I don't know.
Hopefully he's back healthy, but it doesn't matter when you have a guy who won the Heisman and he continues to make Heisman-like plays
it shouldn't surprise us
week
he's
in
doing
and
that.
week out.
Gino, it
It's
makes me mad that
insane.
people think Devontae's like a second receiver or he's not a top 10 talent.
It's just because you have to have that like one or the other discussion.
I
when
know,
it's like,
but
no,
it's not true.
it's the taco commercial. Porque a los dos. Like, why not both, man? They can have their cake and eat it too at the wide receiver position. And DeVonta Smith, man, to be 165 pounds and battle with the heart of a freaking giant he is the embodiment of a Philadelphia Eagle. Without it, he was the perfect Howie Roseman draft pick. Saquon Barkley was the perfect Howie Roseman signing. You talk about finding a market inefficiency. Absolutely dominated this game once again, man. And I still don't think the defense is getting enough credit.
No.
Keon Mitchell is a shutdown corner at this point in time. Like,
Gino, I think
where was Brian Thomas tonight?
Yeah, Cooper DeJean quietly is getting in the Defensive Rookie of the Year race as well. He had another fourth and
Played
one
all
stop.
season. He might have that title, man.
Another
for sure.
fourth down stop where he plays through contact, punches the ball out of a tight end's hands, and Evan Ingram had another third down pass break up the following drive. That's so exciting. And when you look at the age, Gino, of that entire secondary, when you look at the age of Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter had another great game. So did Milton Williams and Moro Ijoma. Consistent pressures. I'm sure the numbers look great for them. Josh Sweat with 2 sacks. If they extend him, he's only, 27, 28 years old. This defense, again, it's so exciting how well they're playing. But what's more exciting is, unlike the 2022 defense, these guys aren't on one-year deals, and you think it's a one-year wonder where
they're not Ronald Darby's, would one say?
Yes, exactly. Like, none of these guys are going anywhere outside of maybe Zack Baun. And like I said, dude, Howie, please break the trend again. Like, it worked with Saquon Barkley. It's working with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. It'll work again. Like, pay a linebacker, pay Zack Baun. I mean, that guy, he does not miss a tackle. And that pick he had today, even the pass breakup on the first drive, I mean, that dude's an absolute stud. I can't believe I doubted, that he could play inside linebacker.
I think it was such a beautiful moment to see Ronald Darby get put on a tee and get hit out of the park on a DeVonta Smith.
From that, I feel like I'm healed because of that.
Absolutely got cooked by DeVonta Smith, man. It felt so good to see that, and then to see the young defensive backs that the Eagles have now, something we missed in 2018. Like you were saying, you kept seeing these Band-Aids come through, and you're like, this guy's not going to be a Philadelphia Eagle for long. And
dude, even 2022, Bradbury was on a one-year deal. Chauncey was. I mean, TJ Edwards' contract was expiring. Kazir White's, Javon Hargrave. This defense, they're all under contract, it feels like, for multiple years.
Besides one guy who should never see the field again. He should be banished to the shadow realm. What is Avonte Maddox doing on the field against the tallest player on the other team again, Lou? Why is this happening to us?
I couldn't even finish the text to you. I saw Avonte come out into the game for the first time, and it's the final drive.
I thought it was Keely Ringo. Oh, that's a great matchup, like a big-bodied corner on Evan Ingram in this spot. No, Avonte Maddox, when you got to do it, you got to do it, Vic Fangio.
I'm sorry, Vic Fangio had a great day. But there's one time every game that I'm like, no. Why is that guy on that guy? And that happened in a bad spot.
It was Mike Gesicki. It was Christian Watson. It was Drake London.
Nolan
Here
Smith
we go
last
again.
week on Jamar Chase. It always happens like once a game. But luckily they held on. And I know we're hyping up Zack Baun, but the Nakobe Dean breakout it's here.
Dude, when he could play with his eyes to the court, that's the key. When he could play with his eyes to the quarterback.
And now he's playing well in coverage. Like that, we were just saying, finally he's blitzing, playing downhill, let him do what he does. But he was great in coverage today.
Don't let him get his back to the ball when he can't see the QB. When he played that catch type of coverage where he caught the player coming towards him and he backs up. That's a catch that, I mean, Dorial Green Beckham wasn't making on the 2016 Eagles.
I was screaming finally because I thought that was Quinyon Mitchell catching that ball. He looked like a corner receiver high pointing that ball. It was such a great play.
And Vic Fangio, once again, dude, this defense, like we're talking about a defense that has allowed now how many offensive touchdowns in the last 4 games? 5? They put up 3 tonight. Put up 2 last
only
week.
2 because
so
Lawrence
4
2
over the
touchdowns, and then the one was the ridiculous one off Saquon's fumble.
So 4 touchdowns this defense has allowed, 2 in offense since the bye week, 4 weeks. They're averaging a touchdown allowed per game. That Vic Fangio is doing his job. I do not doubt him. Even when there's those moments where you're like, okay, why is Avonte in the game? Why is Nolan on Jamar Chase? 98% of the time, Lou, this defense looks fast. They look so much better when the run fits, man. Like they are not allowing big runs. They're not allowing big downfield receptions. Anything that is downfield, somebody's going to be behind it. The sacks are starting to come in bunches. Josh Sweat, he is starting to say, hey, maybe I do want to get paid another contract in Philadelphia. I was going to say, man,
I don't know. He might price himself out of Philly in this open market. He's already got 5 sacks this year.
Milton Williams, another good game. Nolan Smith has been putting together a very good performance. Bryce Huff he had very few snaps in today's game, which was kind of strange. And
yeah, I'm not sure.
Another next man up game for Isaiah Rodgers. Thought he was really good for a majority of the game. I thought the call late in the game on that 3rd down that they allowed, what was that 4th down actually that they allowed that we don't even get hands on the guy.
He was playing way too deep. But he came back and had a nice 3rd down stop on that final drive. So, yeah, I mean, again, the players, there's not a guy on the team that was on the football field that I said you weren't playing well enough. You let the Jaguars back in the game. It's only the guy with the buzz cut and the headset. I mean, that's
Philly Walsh, baby. He continued that. If you do not know the story of Billy Walsh, go and watch Entourage. Basically, he was a movie director who had a one-hit wonder film, his very first film. And then after that, everything was an absolute disaster. He was going over budget. He was making horrible films. What does that sound like? That sounds like a coach who got his team to the Super Bowl before and now is the reason that they have to win in spite of one certain individual, and that is Nick Sirianni. But the guys in the locker room, man, they play for each other, and it is evident as ever on LaShawn McCoy night, Kelly Green night. Vibes were really good for a majority of the night. And you get a win. You're 6-2. You're feeling so much better than you were.
And you need that, man. Washington won. I mean, they're 7-2. You have to keep up in this division race for sure. 28-23, the final score. The Eagles take it over the Jaguars. The NFL trade deadline is just 2 days away. Now that the Eagles won this game and look like they're making a run in 2024, does Howie Roseman need to get on the phones? We'll get into that as we wrap up the postgame show. Coming up next, right here on the Locked On Eagles. This episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? If you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, they're offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, the Great American Story, A Land of Hope, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, all that and more. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon.
As always, this show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL action all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game that maybe you parlay a Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown with a Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown like we did at LOE3 the other day, that you want to go place that bet at the same place that you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right where you place your bets. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win with your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, 28-23, the final score. The Eagles hold on and get to 6-2 after a big win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, again, like Nick Sirianni, I'm very nervous. He might be the reason the Eagles can't win a championship in 2024. But I am convinced enough, considering how well Kellen Moore has been doing lately and Vic Fangio and the players on both sides. I mean, they haven't played this complete football in all three phases. Got to mention Sidney Brown's forced fumble on the punt return early in the game. Like
Canadian Cannon, baby. Came out like
just
a
flying. They haven't played this complete in all three phases, I'd say, since 2022. Jalen Hurts, the last two games, we're getting 2022 MVP caliber Jalen.
Man.
I mean, he was unbelievable today on the ground, through the air. DeVonta made a great catch on that touchdown, but the ball placement today from AJ on the Saquon touchdown, Jalen, I should say, on the DeVonta score, just unbelievable. So, 6-2, they are contenders. Like, they can win it all this year if Nick gets out of the way. So I do think Howie could go into this trade deadline period, which hits on Tuesday, and say, I can be aggressive. Like, let's add one more piece. But, I don't know if there's really a piece to add. Like, maybe you could say edge rusher Bryce Huff didn't play much today. But with how well Josh Sweat's playing, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, I do think Bryce Huff's been better the last three games. I'm not, dying for Howie to do anything. I'm very happy with the personnel. I don't think that's a problem at all this year.
Just one last point on Jalen Hurts. Another game where his completion percentage over expected is crazy, man. I mean, he completed 75% of his balls. That's 11.1% completion percentage over expected, fitting balls into tight window throws. Even the one to Jahan Dotson behind his head where only Jahan could get it, where the defensive back isn't even looking his way. But that brings me to the pass game where A.J. Brown, whatever deity you believe in, folks, like, pray right now, man. And I don't think they make a move, but if there was one position, I know that Grant Calcaterra's looked really good. Maybe like a fringe move for like a tight end, like,
or a pass catcher.
Yeah, I don't think a pass catcher, like, they love Anaya Smith. I think that's clear after today's game. You're just shaking your head. That screen, man, that was a brutal play call. But all in all, you have the horses this year, Lou, and I
agree.
I think the question marks that you came into the season with, a lot of them if not all of them, when it comes to personnel.
The only question I still have is about the head coach, and it's not even a question. I've concluded this for months.
Yeah, so, my rant a couple weeks ago after that Atlanta game.
Can we trade for Ben Johnson?
More true.
Can we trade Nick Sirianni for a?
That's the thing. Like, do you
think
think he can put together a game plan to beat Dan Campbell's Lions right now, who just went on the road in Green Bay and beat the brakes off of the Packers? Like, do you think when push comes to shove that Nick Sirianni is the guy?
No,
I think the talent, you left 8 to 10 points on the board tonight. The talent is there. The guys are making the plays.
The talent is right there with Detroit. It's right there with Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, anybody in the NFL. This personnel can beat anyone. They can win a Super Bowl. But the difference in those games against those teams, especially when it comes time for the playoffs, and if, God forbid, you get to a Super Bowl, it's those in-game decisions that Doug made in 2017. That's what kind of cost you a Super Bowl in 2022 when you think about Nick Sirianni's decision even to punt it on 4th and short on, the 45-yard line. That's the difference when you're playing, when it's great team versus great team, and I don't trust Nick in those situations to be better than the opposing head coach. And so that's what I'm most nervous about this year. If they don't reach their ceiling, it's going to be because of Nick.
I love what the players are doing, truly, and I would love to see if Kellen Moore could just have the offense and let it go. Like,
let's trade Nick for a pick. I mean, will a team take him and make Kellen Moore the head coach?
Okay, Lou. Okay,
I'm kidding.
That's never all of a sudden he's Sean Payton. They're moving him for a pick. But the thing about coaches is, as much as we can just harp on them, it comes down to the guys making the plays. I don't have questions about them making the plays.
I don't want anything at the deadline. I'm very happy with this roster.
No, you continue to. How many times have you left points on the field this season where you're saying the games aren't even close, where you almost beat Atlanta and like we're almost in these games? And now that we see more and more examples, Lou, like people were saying, oh, is it Jalen? Is it some of these signings on offense? It's like, no, we know what the concern is now. It's one guy, but you're not going to let one guy sink the whole ship. Like, there was enough willpower on this team for Lane Johnson and company to go to your head coach and say, we want things to change in this regard. If they put their minds together, Lou, all it takes is the group effort. And the outside noise, like us, it never comes down to us, right? It's always guys in, and they're still buying into it. And
the other coaches are good, Gino. That's the good part. It's not like last year where Sirianni's a problem, Desai's a problem, Brian Johnson's a problem, Patricia's a problem, personnel's a problem. There were a lot of problems last year. Like, I'm very happy with Kellen Moore. The last 2 weeks, going under center, the play action, the rollouts, what he did today with Saquon, it's completely unleashed.
Look at the numbers for Jalen Hurts. Look at the numbers. He's
the last
excellent
2 games.
These last 2 weeks.
Jalen Hurts has not played this good of football the last 2 games since Super Bowl 57. And that is because of the adjustments that I think he wanted, Lane Johnson wanted, Kellen Moore heard and recognized. Got to give credit to Nick Sirianni, too. Of course, he's got to sign off on that. But, like, the coaches outside of Nick that are surrounding Nick are strong again. And that's also why I still think this team can reach that ceiling. It's just those in-game decisions that I'm horrified are going to bite this team in the butt when it does matter most. And I hope that's not the case.
And the thing about it is they have to be aggressive and not play not to lose. And today felt very park the bus-esque. Like, oh, let's go take a stroll after this second quarter that
Let's
we're
play
up
with our
16
food.
to nothing.
Let's try some trick plays.
Let's just let them hang around for a
Let's
little
start
bit
with
and
Nia
hang
Smith.
around. They just kept hanging around, and then all of a sudden you're back in this game. It's the 2-6 Jaguars. What's going to happen when it's the playoffs?
Exactly. That's
what's going to happen
too.
when you're facing these teams.
The Lions, the Niners.
On the road, in an NFC divisional playoff game, in an NFC championship, because it's as much as we harp on, of course, the postgame show in a vacuum to what happened in the last game, we all knew what our destination on the map was when we took off from the get-go just 2 months ago. It wasn't to crawl through games and all of a sudden you're the 5th seed and you lose to Washington in a close game that looks like a really well-coached team. That's not the aspirations. The aspirations were the mountaintop. And good teams to get to the mountaintop are prepared from head to toe. They don't take stupid penalties in the 2-minute drill. They don't concede on 2nd and 22 and run a screen. They don't overthink themselves to, on 4th and inches, run a bootleg out to throw it multiple yards downfield. He's a guy who's at the poker table that doesn't play by the book, that almost once again cost this team money. But you're lucky that the dealer flipped a 10 and bust because they got out of there alive with a win.
28-23, the final score. The Eagles are now 6-2. Dallas coming to town. Coming up next, we got you covered all throughout the week right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen and watch each and every day. For Gino Camilleri, I'm Lou DiBiase signing off. Once again, the final score, 20-23. Thanks as always for downloading, watching, and listening. And let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.